Hey guys, I'm here today with the MXR Phase 95. As always, I've bought this pedal with my own money and my opinions are my own in this. I'll be demoing its functions along with the HX Stomp here for two reasons. The HX Stomp is acting as a buffer, and it also has an emulation of the Phase 90, which we'll be doing an A and B against. And I think that this emulation sounds great. I want to bring up the fact that I had to use a buffer mainly because this has a huge volume drop if you have it like plugged into something with a very low impedance input like a mixer or audio recorder, but a buffer seems to fix that issue. So going into like the front end of an amp, you probably would not have the issue. So that's probably why I haven't heard of the issue. I saw it once in an effects chain with a Phase 95 as well, so it's not specific to my unit, but just something to be aware of. In my case, I usually have a reverb pedal anyway, so it's going to act as a buffer while it's turned on anyway. So I'm a long-term MXR fan, as you can see, and I just like their effects, and their phaser is one of their most famous, as it was one of their first, back in 1974, I believe, with the Phase 95. Phasing sounds fantastic on strings, especially synth strings and mellotron strings. In this case, I'm using the wave state to make some mellotron-style strings. This emulates both the vintage and the modern Phase 90 and 45. The difference between the vintage ones and the modern ones is the vintage ones have no feedback. The other difference between the Phase 45 and the 90 are the amount of op amps in the chain. In the case of the 45, there's 2 inverting op amps for phase changing, and in the 90, there's 4. Now, if you ever see in digital emulations of phasers why there's a stage setting, that's what it usually indicates, how many inversion stages there are, or in the case of a physical circuit, it's generally how many op amps. Alright, let's get on to some demos. So I have a string patch here that you heard in the opening. In the opening, I was using the Phase 90 modern mode. Dry. We'll go back to that Phase 90 and we'll mess around with it from there. So the Phase 45 will have a subtler phasing effect. Turn up the speed there. Let's go into the vintage mode. This is a vintage Phase 45. Now we'll go into the vintage Phase 90. Back to the vintage 45 at that speed. Lovely on strings. Back to that 90. Let's go back into the modern mode, turn off the light mode. They call it script mode, and the reason for that is they had a change in logos. I'll show that up on the screen here in a second. It's called script because they had a script logo, and the modern logo is a block logo. I like the modern logo a lot more. So that's the modern Phase 90. Lovely and pronounced phasing effect. It's getting into some real Jean-Michel Jarre style phasing. Except again, he used a Electro-Harmonix small stone phaser. I want one of those as well. I like the phasing to be fairly slow and very pronounced. Back to the 45. This is the modern 45. Still think that sounds lovely. Back to the no feedback or script mode. We're getting into some tremolo territory here, or almost univibe. Almost has a phaser style sound with that nice whooshing. Again, just lovely the strings. Back to that 90 and modern 90. Just love that sound. We'll turn it to the script mode so we can hear a phase 90 again, a vintage phase 90, because we'll be demoing what it sounds like on the HX Stomp. So let's turn down the speed a little. I'm always impressed by the Line 6 HX Stomp. They just do a good job of emulating old pedals. I mean, they better for that price point, but here we are. Such a cool effect. That's the HX Stomp again. Now back to the real thing. They sound so similar. This is going to sound different than other Phase 90s, obviously, because there's calibration to be done, things like that. The changes in op amps throughout the years are going to sound differently, so one pedal will sound different to another, even if it's a real MXR phaser. Just back to the HX Stomp for one more go. I'm going to do both at the same time now. I'm only demoing the Phase 90 mode of this in the vintage mode according to this one because that's the model that's modeled in there. Anyway, yeah, I really think it sounds excellent on strings. It sounds great for like giving you some movement in a soundscape. Yeah, so thanks for watching.